She was only 3 years old when she grabbed the bride's veil and pulled with all her tiny strength, and everything fell apart in front of 300 guests. Gasps filled the ballroom. The groom froze. The bride's face twisted in horror as old letters and a small velvet pouch spilled out from a hidden pocket sewn into the lace, scattering across the marble floor like snow. Nobody in that room knew yet that this little girl, the daughter of the hotel's cleaning maid, was about to save a wedding instead of ruining it. Before we dive into this story, if you believe in the quiet power of kindness, hit that subscribe button and tap the like icon so more stories like this reach the people who need them. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. This is Kindness Miracles, and we tell true-to-life stories about ordinary people whose small acts of love change everything. Now, let's get back to that ballroom, frozen in shock. The wedding was supposed to be perfect. Everly Grant, the bride, had planned every detail for over a year, down to the exact shade of ivory in the tablecloths. Her fiancé, Nathaniel, stood at the altar in his black tuxedo, watching the woman he loved walk toward him. Behind the flowers, near the back row, stood Rosa Delgado, the hotel's maid, holding her daughter Sofia's hand. Rosa wasn't a guest. She had simply brought Sofia along because her babysitter had cancelled that morning, and there was nowhere else for the little girl to go while Rosa finished her shift cleaning the reception hall before the ceremony began. Sofia had never seen anything like it. The chandeliers sparkled like stars, the flowers smelled like a garden in bloom, and the bride's dress trailed behind her like a river of silk. So when Everly passed by, Sofia reached out with her small hand, not to cause trouble, but simply because a curious 3-year-old cannot resist something so beautiful. She grabbed the edge of the veil and tugged, and the delicate fabric tore along a seam that had clearly been stitched by hand, not by any professional tailor. That is when the letters fell. Yellowed envelopes, a faded photograph, and a small pouch of old jewelry scattered across the floor. Everly's hands flew to her mouth. Nathaniel bent down immediately, gathering the pieces, and his eyes landed on a name written across one envelope in handwriting he recognized instantly. It was his grandmother's handwriting. His grandmother had passed away 2 years earlier, and this veil had been altered by a local seamstress just weeks before the wedding, a seamstress nobody had thought twice about. Rosa rushed forward, mortified, pulling Sofia back and apologizing over and over, certain she would lose her job on the spot. But Everly knelt down on the floor in her wedding gown, ignoring every eye in the room, and began reading the letter in her hands. Her grandmother-in-law had written it years before her death, addressed simply to whoever wears this veil next. In it, she described how she had once been a poor seamstress herself, how a stranger's small act of kindness, a warm meal and a place to sleep during a snowstorm, had saved her life when she was young and alone in a new country. She wrote that she had spent the rest of her life trying to repay that kindness in small ways, and she asked whoever read this letter to do the same, to notice the person nobody else was noticing. Everly looked up, tears streaming down her face, and her eyes found Rosa, who was still on her knees trying to calm a crying Sofia. In that moment, something shifted in Everly's heart. She realized that in the entire year of planning this wedding, she had walked past Rosa in these hallways dozens of times and never once learned her name. She had never asked about her life, her daughter, her struggles. The woman who cleaned up after every rehearsal dinner, who had probably ironed these very tablecloths, had been invisible to her. Everly stood up, veil torn and all, walked over to Rosa, and gently took her hands. She thanked her, not for cleaning, but simply for being there, and she asked Sofia if she would like to be part of the wedding, right then, as an honorary flower girl for the rest of the ceremony. The guests, still stunned, began to whisper, then smile, then quietly wipe their own eyes. Nathaniel walked over and knelt beside Sofia, telling her that his grandmother would have loved her, that she had just delivered a message meant to arrive exactly this way. The ceremony continued moments later, delayed but somehow more beautiful than before. Sofia walked just ahead of the bride, clutching a small basket of petals, beaming with pride, completely unaware of the reason the entire room now watched her with such tenderness. Rosa stood near the front this time, not in the back, invited by Everly herself to sit with family. But the story did not end at the wedding. In the weeks that followed, Everly learned that Rosa had been working 2 jobs just to afford Sofia's preschool, often skipping meals so her daughter never had to. Quietly, without cameras or announcements, Everly and Nathaniel helped cover Sofia's tuition for the next 3 years and made sure Rosa's shifts allowed her real time with her daughter. Rosa never asked for any of it. She had simply shown up, done her job with dignity, and let her daughter be a curious child for one afternoon. Sometimes the biggest miracles begin with the smallest hands. A torn veil, an old letter, and one little girl's innocent curiosity reminded an entire room full of strangers that kindness is rarely loud. It hides in the people we walk past every single day, waiting patiently to be noticed. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs reminding that small kindness never truly disappears, it simply waits for the right moment to unfold. This has been Kindness Miracles, and we will see you in the next story. It hides in the people we walk past every single day, waiting patiently to be noticed. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs reminding that small kindness never truly disappears, it simply waits for the right moment to unfold. This has been Kindness Miracles, and we will see you in the next story. It hides in the people we walk past every single day, waiting patiently to be noticed. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs reminding that small